Hey everyone, I'm S68 and welcome to Plotting and Scheming, covering Season 68, 3 versus 3 Grand Arena Championship, Week 1. I am joined here by Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal, my regular co-hosts. We're here to break things down, how things went in the thereabouts of the top 100 of Kyber 1. Just starting off here, talking about the week, I went 2-1. First round was against Rockstar. And a brutal match between us. We both dropped a ton. In the end, he won, but just by 3. So really compelling match. Round 2, I fought our very own Sasha Aisha. And most of the time he's kicking my teeth in, and today I won. This time I won. And I managed to go through in with no drops. It was a really rare type of win. Really happy day. And then round 3 in Erodium, which is hilarious because for that to happen after winning round 2 means that the 2 Erodiums in the bracket had to have been matched together for round 1. So that's just fantastic. Dagger, how about your week?
Oh, I went 3-0. But don't start now. I'm about to blow your mind. It's not an illusion. Be the one and dance the night away because Mace is levitating into week 2 of GAC.
I'm not going to clap. I'm giving you nothing. I'm giving you nothing. You get
I
nothing.
wrote that just for you, Taz.
You get nothing. And you see all that time, all that effort, and what do you get? You get nothing.
I think there were 4 words in there that weren't Dua Lipa songs.
Fair. That's fair. So yeah, 3-0 week. Nice to hear. TJ, how about you?
Yeah, man, also 3-0. Wow. I just want to get this motherfucking Mace off the motherfucking plane. So yeah. I'm not going that far. He can do all the Dua Lipa shit and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, 3-0, man. It was a good week, dude. Super solid. Just was not a fan of the where we're at, which was checkbox efficiency. Super sweaty.
Yep. Can be like that. All right, Sasha Aisha, how about you? How'd things go?
I was getting my teeth kicked in. I had a 1-2 week. The first match was was over right at the beginning. I had a Slicker hard fail. Never got past Slicker. So tested and killed a bunch of other stuff around it. But the match was basically over at that point. And we'll get into the D-Ray battles and counters and learnings on that. But that one was totally determinative. And then I had a really fun match with you, Tess. That was a ton of fun. In that one, I did get SLKR down, but had a drop with it. And again, we'll talk more about that particular battle. And then had one other mistake that cost me basically 2 battles. And that was way more than enough as my defense ended up not being able to get a hold against you. Really disappointed there. That was by far the most fun match of the week, though. And looks like just logged in. Looks like we're matching up round 1 this week, Tess.
That's
so
right.
Looking forward to more of it.
We knew, it's like, see you next week.
Exactly.
That's nice. Well, yeah. All right. And then, I'm sorry, what was your round 3 about?
It was a win on Erodium.
Yeah. Fair enough. You had to have gotten the other one. Fair. All right. Well, Fatal, how about you? How'd the week go?
1 and 2. It was a fun experiment, although by the end things kind of settled not quite the way I was hoping. But yeah, I kind of went into the week with a grand scheme. There were like 4 experimental counters lined up, and so I posted some of the hardest defense I've ever posted. As information rolled in and things developed, some of it fell through. Like the plan was to run Joe Costa, Keller, and Beck against Dark Ray.
Yeah.
No preload either. The plan was that it should just work straight up, and then it turns out the handcuffs don't apply until after their uniques resolve, so she gets the double health and the handcuffs fall off of her.
Yeah.
But yeah, the plan going into this week was to assassinate SLK, Dark Ray, FTC with Joe Costa. Shit like that. Wanted to try a bad match against LV Clone. Shit like that. Yeah, I mean, overall, I would like the second match was not really kind of a real match. It was just like, hey, yeah, I pulled shit that does not work, so it's just kind of a non-starter. Third match was actually pretty close overall. This actually might be the rare time where I would say that I think it would be a win if I just had a little bit more time to like chill and measure shit. It's a really weirdly technical season, I would say. Like, not just on like the big stuff, but even like some smaller teams are really kind of making me like slow down fights a bit and think. So yeah, overall a pretty cool week, I would say. Some pretty fun streams.
All right, yeah, I will definitely say a lot of brain power on attacks this week for sure. So right there with you. All right, guys. Topic 1: meta-analysis. Slacker Dre with the Dracron, of course, has to be the first order of business. I think Dagger was looking this up earlier. Bane is just disastrous. I think the only chance you have of winning it at all, and the odds are not great, is if you attempt it with Malik. I saw Fatal do that a couple times. Did you have any success with that?
So the whole reason why I did Malik was expressly actually not to try to win. It was actually because so the way it started, match 1, I went in with Jocasta in the back pocket, and that was the end goal I was shooting for. That, as far as I was aware, no one knew that it was like even on the menu. But my opponent posted Hux, so Hux was smaller. So I was like, shit, I just need to get Hux out of the way, and then I can force handcuffs on Dark Ray. And so I used Bane to kill Hux, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then match 2 didn't really try it, or like I might have tried it, but I just knew it wasn't going to work. And then match 3, I cooldown pulled before Hux because it's crucial to know that Dark Ray is actually like the easiest character to preload that we've ever seen, because she resets their TM after each kill. So like literally, you can just throw a Gear 13 character in, and as long as they survive the SLK poke, you'll get SLK poke and then Dark Ray ult, and then she'll just reset their turn meter. And so you can literally just be like, okay, well, y'all suck for a few turns, and then I'm not gonna say the fight was like clean or unlosable, but yeah, I did the cooldown pull into Bane, Malik, and did get the clean 2-shot for, I would say, relatively cheap given the current landscape. So
okay, yeah. I imagine you feel as a 1-shot coming in fresh on it, odds are poor or competitive or what?
No, seems extremely unlikely.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
For what it's worth, like for how this season is shaped, I do think that like heavy defense does seem to have plenty of gas in the tank right now. That like spending only Bane at -20 banners seems like incredibly affordable right now. That I really don't mind taking the -20.
Fair. Let me pull up the next thing. Of course, we'll be talking about JMK. Now, Dagger, I don't know if you happen to have that information still at your fingertips earlier when we were talking, but you had information on the different win rates for whichever third you were taking along with JMK Cat. And I think...
Yeah, so,
go ahead. Yeah,
sorry.
please.
Yeah, so it depends on your relic level. Once you get down to like relic 7, the tank matters a little bit less. You start to see the numbers start to homogenize around like 70%, 65 to 70%. But once you go to like R8, you see GK takes a huge drop off, and you see Fives being about 12 points better than Mace, who's about 5 points better than GK. Then once you go up to all R9, you see Fives having about a 20-point lead on Mace, and Mace having about a 15-point lead on GK. So unless you're planning to use gas, I think Fives is easily the best third. And after looking at the data, don't set Officer, don't set Hux. They're both bad. They both make the fight a lot easier.
Specifically for JMK, yeah.
Yes. Crew is solid. Faust has slightly better hold rate. There's a lot more, although granted, it's a smaller sample size because the majority of people just set crew. So you have to kind of filter some of the data out.
Yeah.
And when you filter it by the Jedi, and I filtered by multiple datacron. So the numbers I gave you for the matchup skews that I just did at the relic levels are using the Hodacron. Now, if you use a different cron, you go from like 72 to win to like 61 to win. So there's about an 11-point jump there just using the Hodacron. So, and it's still not 100%. It's still in the mid 70s to high 70s, depending on the comp you take,
Right.
depending on the comp you fight.
And this footage is using the Hodacron for this fight. So just want to be clear about that.
And so one more thing, Dagger, because I've not had a chance to dig down to this, but I will say from my personal experience that not all failures against D-Ray are the same. It's like if you can kill D-Ray, like Fatal said, I will happily take a 20 banner loss if I can get through that squad efficiently. Did you get a sense out of looking at the data of like the differences in being able to get at least D-Ray out versus like even if it's a loss but D-Ray's gone?
I would say that in the fails, so I really perused the fails with 5s, and it's a smaller sample size. I would say in about a little over 9 out of 10. I would how do I like phrase this? Over 90, I think over 90% of the fails with 5s is just a lone SOK.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you, my match with Tass, it was a failure. I brought 5s, but it was a failure. But I took out D-Ray, and even in that case, Fost was still there. But even I didn't mind. It felt like glorious victory to just have D-Ray die.
GK leads to the most sides being alive.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of hard to tell just because like sample size and everything, because it's week 1 and I'm filtering by a specific cron, by specific relic levels, right? You're getting down to when I posted in Tass's chat, Tass, you remember looking at it, like one of the fights was like 107 and 40.
Yeah.
Right? You're getting down to like these really small numbers to where you really have to try to extrapolate out a bit. So obviously nothing concrete. I'm not going to claim any of the things I said today are finite. Those are just my takeaways looking at the data after week 1. Obviously, people are probably going to be a little bit better at running the fight. I know I watched a handful of people against Crew get their cat stunned by Crew and just sit there potatoing when they could have just used JMK middle to cleanse their cat. So, there's some moving pieces that I think people will improve upon for week 2. So I'm curious to see what happens week 2. But if we can't get this bitch up to like 85 to 80, 85+%, yeah, I'm kind of with Fatal at this point that if I can pull cooldowns and then use Bane to clean up, and like what you said, it's getting through. It's the important part. I'll give a spoiler for my defense of the week before we look at it. My SOK wasn't cleared all week. Was not cleared.
Mine was, but I'm going to keep calling it out, and we'll call it I don't care. The anarchist, get your tinfoil hat out. I think there's a lot more puzzles to look at when you go into the team, the build of the squad. I also agree. I don't want to call Dagger right, but we'll talk about a favorite defense. And spoiler, it was Fost as the third. I think those are part of the answers, but I think it's bigger than that, because I don't see us, and I'm going to say it like this: if they don't realize what you're looking for, and I'm not giving it away because I think that's a big piece of the fight, it's going to add to more losses. So to Dagger's point, can we get it to 85? I don't think so,
I'm not going to
because
spoil TJ's plans, so I'm hoping I'm not stepping over the line for you here, TJ. But I did do some remods for this matchup specifically.
I think
not the try hard ones, because there are some try hard remods you could do to make this, I don't want to say a lot cleaner, but quite a bit more consistent.
You want to talk about it? And Tass, if you want to show, we saw on your stream with my fight the craziness of what the team can do, where she took 7-8 turns in a row. And it's things like that where I was like, I was flabbergasted, right? Like,
yeah. So, and looking back at the footage, it's clear because you had a couple turns resolve on our side, and that triggered Dre. So
but it's so fast when you watch the fight.
Yeah,
it's like,
I'll pull it up.
It's like you're doing a double take on what just happened, and we're sitting there talking about like, I don't know, but that's
you had 2 turn stuns expiring.
Yeah, and it's okay. It was
Yeah.
just funny to watch, right? Because how seamless the fight went. It's like I think you'd have to like one times it to like realize all of the pieces that were happening, which was great to see. Some of the actual choke points where it's again not 85%, but I think with what Dagger's talking about, you can do additional twerks to make that lower on the defensive
You
side.
guys seeing this
And
on screen right now?
yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start it from here. I want to say.
I will say my jaw drop was pretty big when
Yeah.
it went
We're
down.
about to see it.
Like,
All right, here we go. Basic, basic, basic. Okay, fives goes. Basic, basic, basic. Cat goes. Lightning. Ult. TJ and I are both sitting here like, what the
I'm
hell,
not
man?
puckering. You're puckering. I'm not nervous.
Waiting.
You're
Yeah, waiting
nervous.
for my turn. Can I have a turn, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was,
You want to talk about some ultimate puckering. I'm not puckering.
Yes.
You're puckering. I'm not scared. You're scared.
Today's word is clench.
Dude, I there was no pooping for a week, but it's just like I said, to Dagger's point, it is just not so simple of go look at Swigo, go look at Insight, go put nope. Dagger's 100% right. You need to take into account a lot more pieces. And that's kind of where I'll leave that. So it's like
Yeah,
I
if
have
you
a
wanna-
better game plan going this week now from everything I've watched.
Yeah, if you want to sweat lord this fight, 3x defense sets, 4x health primaries on fives, 4x health primaries on cat. I moved my cat over to a health arrow.
Nice.
Yeah, you can kind of sweat lord this fight a little bit. And again, you're just improving margins. You're not actually legislating out all of the RNG, but I think that you can mod out some of it. And to counteract some of that people could do, I put the crit damage triangle back on my Dre.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I give as much as you can to the people, but it's like just to end where I'm at. It's like I don't see. I don't think.
We talked about
No, not even that. I don't know if we can get this to the 85, even with this surefire, like air quote surefire thing.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an 85 coming in this because you can still get the bad luck, and that's your match regardless. Then it does become like, well, should I have ever done the 2-shot?
But that's why I said I'm also with Fatal and Sasha when they say how budget it kind of is to just take the 20 banners.
I don't recall, by the way, like, and I didn't really get to dig through, but when I did the sort of most superficial search of Kyber 1, the leader, Dark Ray, and then a Dark Ray Kron, I don't remember for that search ever seeing a squad that came up with as low a success rate. And I think what I was seeing was like 17%. It's just, it's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely checkbox.
Yeah, if you in order to see any success, you basically have to filter by like Kyber 1, minimum R7, and then add the Hodacron, and you try. Yeah, I'm looking here at it, and it gets up to 72%. 72% is the highest from last week. Outside of the one, this is the anomaly of 7 battles, 100% of JMK Cat 5s, all R9 versus SOK with the Hodacron versus SOK, Dre, and crew. That's like the one anomaly.
I think it really speaks to just the sheer scope with the current Datacron sets, and then mods to boot. Like there is just an insane quality gap, and like not even quality gap necessarily, right? But just choice gap of like, are you running a Bane with 180% crit damage? Are you running him with defense? Are you grabbing last set with health or protection or whatever? Right? Like, there are just so many fucking choices. It like as far as like a week 1 to parse. This is the first time where I looked at Insight and I'm like, man, I wish we could filter or sort by stats.
Yeah. No, I think that would be. I think that's hugely necessary.
Because I was filtering by I can only filter by 3 6s and 9s, and I think I posted a few searches earlier for everybody to kind of look through. But yeah, dude, I spent an hour and a half on Insight just kind of dinking around
dude, stats I think are the key to the success this season. That is a great call out. That, and do you have the FDCs right now? The FDCs are the new GLs. FDCs are just the way.
I mean, nothing saves you from like that situation, your fight that you were able to stabilize with all three characters surviving. Absolutely nothing less than the unpreventable protection ups was making that possible.
I also don't think if Mace was there, I am 99.9. It's a flat out loss. And the only reason I say that because if you look, there were times where they said, I'm gonna go hit fives right now. Oh, thank you for hitting fives. Thank you for going after somebody else other than because she took all those turns. And if they never stopped, and if Mace wasn't there or fives or the other character, now we're down to two. They like weak characters, so that's a scary proposition. And that's what I'm talking about with like I don't think it's so cut and dry. It's like, well, you see this always works with nope. I think that's where the stats and the numbers and other things come into play that you have to take into account.
Mm-hmm. So the quick notes on then here with Slacker is that Bane is reliable as a 2-shot only, and then as far as JMK goes, by far the best two tanks would be Mace second and Fives first.
Mhm.
Anything else but those two looks pretty dicey. As far as your own Slacker team, setting Hux or Fu, anything like that, that's kind of meant, in my opinion, to impede Bane, which is already suffering if you set a tank. And then if you set any tank, that's a more difficult situation for JMK, which looks to be most people's best attempt at a one shot. So keep
Foss
that in
being
mind.
slightly better than Crew.
Yeah, Faust apparently performing slightly better. I do prefer Faust just because I like the, whenever he uses an ability, so it doesn't require that it's his special. That and he has counterattack. So if he gets hit, he could counterattack, which has a chance to trigger an assist from an ally. That could feed ultimate charge to Slacker. He only needs to pop off with the first charge, and then Dark Ray resets, and then it's just madness, right? So it's any little bit helps in that direction, but certainly it looks like tanks are the better way to jam up JMK. Did we have any other notes we wanted to add about fighting Slacker Dre this week? I mean, that's about it from me.
I'll close it off by saying I agree that you can use Mace, but you'll take if you're taking on like R9 rate SLK teams, you're taking like an 18 to 20 point hit.
That's
so
big.
just keep that in mind as well. So if you need your Gas Rex 5 someplace, do that. But man, you're dropping like 78% to 57% by switching to Mace. So also just kind of keep that in mind as well.
Dagger, just to underline Dagger's point is, and from all the other data that we're seeing here, is it's like that's not just a incremental 20% chance for a drop, but that is like an 18 to 20% chance that your match is completely over. Having somebody, it's like it's not like
that's a lot.
Gosh, there goes 20 banners. No, you're not seeing that back wall. It's having been there, I speak from experience.
Yeah, I lost one too, and it cost me like I'd have to go back and look, but it cost me a few teams to get through after that failed.
Yeah, I had no shot at getting through, so it did. I mean, at best, it's going to test a few teams.
I took out sides. That's the only reason I had a chance.
Yeah.
Fair. All right. Next topic then here, Lord Vader Oppo CX2. I just wanted to mention that previously, I think I did Seer Malicos Mall last season, and that was when we still had set 20. I remember folks telling me Seer Malicos Star Killer can work. This was up against the Lord Vader with Apocron, and I was successful. Sample size of 1. So that's in the, I want to say, round 2 versus Sasha as well. Really fortunate that one went well. It was a long fight, but it got done. So
that's one I'll say. Having I didn't get to see it real time, but I went back and watched the VOD of it, and it didn't seem super comfortable. Like I like it. If you were to do that again, I there's certainly no guarantee of the same result. There's a good shot that it goes totally pear shaped.
54.48% on .gg.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that it was a slam dunk because, I'm going to speed this up hugely, but yeah, the idea here is you're still playing it the same way in that you're just focusing down Lord Vader. Eventually, there's enough AoE that CX2 ended up getting chipped off later in the fight, but it goes a good ungodly long time, and you're not wrong about that. You're feeling the weight of time closing in on you. I think it was somewhere between the second and third sweep from Oppo that I was just, terrified that we were all about to be simultaneously deleted, and the moment never came. I mean, just skip ahead a little more. And
while we're kind of watching this footage, if you don't mind, I can go over some of the stats.
So there, that big push from Star Killer. So that was just after I'd already dropped the ship. So you can see we get low. Like, it's it definitely gets a little risky there, and then we still finished it for 55. I was completely over the moon about it though, because I mean, I thought it was sunk. The fight went so long. But anyway, sorry, what were you going to say there?
Yeah, I was just say when you're looking at the data here, JML is around 83%, so that's kind of cool.
Nice. With the Hodocron, is that what, JKL Hoda, or what are we doing here?
JKL Hoda, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that's
And
pretty
Hoda,
nice.
is that with Hodocron? What's it like without?
Sub 55.
Yeah.
I did use that fight last season, and I can say my first fight went pretty much exactly the way yours did. My second fight, also known as my last fight, they just focused the fuck out of Malkos, and it was just like over in less than 90 seconds.
Yeah.
It did seem there's a lot of targeting RNG to that.
Hope you broke up on us there, Sasha. But yeah, it does seem some targeting RNG because they chose to go after Starkiller in my fight, and they did it over and over again. So yeah, that could have absolutely gone poorly.
Yeah, and you can get layup to around 74%. With various like Zalbar or bulk level 3s. The Phoenix Kron is also like around that too. So you can get layup to about a 3 out of 4. The best counters are still obviously SOK. And then you have Lord Vader Bane if you don't have your clones, which I don't think a lot of people listening to us have that particular issue. And then the next best counter is Ray Ben Cal.
Yeah, you've been liking that one yourself, yeah?
I have really been liking that counter. The very worst version of it is like 78%.
Okay.
And the reason
what's your cron
it,
setup? Tell folks about that. Any particulars to it?
I don't know how much it matters. When you go look at the stats from last season, the Rays that were beating, it was like Amplify Agony level 3s, so bricks. Like actual bricks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you looked at the stats on them, some had tenacity and protection, some had health and potency, some had armor pen, which didn't do anything. Well, I shouldn't say nothing, but you get the point I'm trying to make. It was an eclectic amount of crons at about an 85% clip last season. It looks to be slightly worse than that, but with a much larger sample size this season. And I know I walked one of your patrons, Striker, through it. When I say walked him through it, I watched him do the fight. And he said he wanted me to watch him do the fight. I got it to work a couple times. It's just butter. Just don't let your ray go below 50%, and then Ben doesn't die, and just keep putting lifeblood on Cal.
And why lifeblood on Cal? Because doesn't lifeblood increase the offense of whoever gets it? So why would you not feed that to Ben?
Whirlwind is all of your damage, and then you're just back-to-back ulting off SOK, or back-to-back ulting off Lord Vader. You're whirlwinding Apo, then you're whirlwinding CX2.
Okay, so we understand how we're killing in that fight, but why still lifeblood Cal?
Because you don't want Cal to die, and Ben won't die as long as your ray doesn't go below 50%.
All right, there we have it. Appreciate
and you
that.
want the damage reduction to Cal.
Okay, so that's a good fix for Lord Vader. Did any of you fight the new CX2 Kron? And if so, did that make any difference for you for whatever your chosen counter was? I did not. I don't think.
I didn't check the Kron, but let me double check and see if I did fight it, but I don't think I did. I also admittedly just didn't check. I just took Ray and went.
Mm-hmm. Fair. All right. Well, yeah. Next item then. So Queen Amidala with the Krennic Focus Datacron. I myself set the Focus Datacron with the Tuscans a couple rounds. Nothing fancy came of it, but our intrepid TJ was willing to give it a shot against a Ray Swolo Exile Ezra. What was the cron on that Ray team, TJ? I'm pulling up your video right now, but yeah.
I'm gonna say round 3. It was.
I think. Oh yeah, that was.
Was it? Was it round 3? Yes, because that's when I already did it. So it was a bulk protection, 200% defense, offense. So it was bulk with 200% defense, offensive crit damage. That'd be one I would say is pretty solid for a setup.
I got you. Hold on, I'm pulling yours over on the screen. Okay, so it was a high defense set 22, you said?
200% I would call, but yes, defense set 22 works.
Okay,
bulk.
And then a light side bulk level 3. Mm-hmm. All right, there we go. All right. So we take advantage of all the debuffing power of a support with Queen's Middle. Master Qui-Gon doing debuffs, empowering Padawan. I'm good. Waiting for DIs to fall down, I guess.
This was not necessary to do the middle. I just did it. And I also do want to call out that we went through 3 different scenarios, 3 different crons. Dagger was there. Dagger went. He made a couple different choices.
Yeah, I used
this was fun.
to delete him.
That was just fun to me. The delete on Ezra was awesome, but Dagger did it another way.
Yeah, I deleted Ezra off the rip instead of waiting longer.
Where do you mean off the rip? Where exactly did you achieve
Pow's
that?
First turn. I did it on Pow's first turn.
You have it. The second video, if you want to pull it out of there.
I think you did that with his middle. Like you didn't swipe on your first go, right?
He didn't do the AOE. He went right in with the big hit first.
It was Dagger's the first video. Hold on.
No, I should be the first.
No, you were the middle video. This is Dagger's video.
Did it swap? All right, either way.
Yeah, it's all good. We got it on screen.
And then Stryker was there, and he got to do it, and his was against the Zalbar Cron. So it's like we got a good variety of hits that were being done.
Yep. Master Qui-Gon's third into targeting Ezra and doing middle.
Yep, and making Ezra just disappear.
Bop, bop.
Yep.
Womp, womp.
And I did burn the summon there, the Mass Assist, because I wanted to get her into DI. And then, I'm just
biding your time, waiting for
and
DIs
this fight
to drop.
is about 80% on Insight, and if you adjust for the support cron, it's about 82%. So there is apparently a failure rate. I didn't do a whole lot by like Relic because there was only like 12 total fights or something like that. Right there. There weren't a whole lot of there wasn't a lot of data on .gg to try to parse.
Fair. Good stuff.
But I do believe that fight is north of 90.
It looks pretty smooth. I mean, as long as you're careful to use Queen's abilities at the right time, definitely opening up with their middle. If you're otherwise used to opening up with their mass assist, not the way. You want to save that for the strategic revive of the decoy. So,
well, also the rip of the foresight. Your debuff is a good analogy of it, but it's the idea that there's still foresight there, and you can't hit through that. So take it from both sides, right? Because of that's being set up. So that's what makes it even better.
Fair. All right. Any other comments about applying the Krennic focused datacron this week? Any other novel uses? Like I said, I stuck it with the Tuscans, but to no particular avail.
Yeah,
I'm also-
I also thought that was cute. I put it there initially, so I'm like, oh, because the way Chieftain reads is that he's the one who puts out the dots, and that's like super adorable with the support cron.
Yeah, it is.
But Queen is just so much better.
I mean, we saw it was life changing. I have a Leia fight, but again, I don't compare that to a Rey Ezra team.
Yeah, I mean, if you're able to stomp Rey Ezra, Ahsoka Ezra, Leia, whatever. But Fatal, you were about to chime in with something?
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that it was doing the same. That I was just sick of seeing the Great Mothers versus Queen Amidala in match history, so I just yanked them and posted a Starkiller Malicos in their spot.
Fair. Do anything for you this week, out of curiosity?
I don't know. Let me get that answer right now.
It's true. Yeah,
Probably
have a look at that. Insight is updated.
I mean, so it wasn't necessarily a fatigue setup, but I did just like rack up holds that like, okay, so Seer, actually ironically to exactly what I just said, someone tried Great Mothers against Seer, that failed, and then they used Treya and won with Nihilus last standing.
Wow. Yeah.
Savage and Treya did. That's
Can't be doing that, I'm afraid. All right.
Oh yeah, I'll keep looking and pointing anything else out later. But I mean, yeah, like in the GAC data for the most part, kind of similar to what we said previously for 5v5, Seer, Starkiller, Malicos is kind of typically just looks like, give me your Bane or give me a GL or prepare for some pain.
For sure. Mm-hmm. All right, next team. I just wanted a brief discussion here on Balin. So I just wanted to mention that a couple opponents set high defense dark side crons with the stacking offense level 3, which is definitely the level 3 to go. Go with Balin, I would imagine. But JML is available now. Like what made using JML against Balin risky was that long text mercenary level 6, which is no longer with us. So I did attempt it, and it was relatively clean. There was a couple, unfortunate dodges that made me worried about whether Shin would last long enough to get to that second turn and blow my dudes out of existence. But yeah, no, that didn't happen. We managed to just pop everybody relatively quickly. So I had Balin down myself. I think he had the occasional hold. Especially versus in that match versus Rockstar where we both just sweated out. But if I had to do it all again, it would still be a dark side stacking offense level 3. And this time I think I just lean into probably as much offense as I could. But if I got crit damage as well, I wouldn't fight hard to roll it away. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on that. Otherwise, the thought would be to keep Balin for offense, maybe against the odd player that might set Jedi Master Mace on me.
I think I might hold Balin just for the people who have Mace, because Sidious 89%ing this bitch is not something I'm into. And then also Jabba at 98 and change. And Bo at like 94% and change. 96% and change. Bo for me had a much lower I have found less places to use her this season. Because she's not really beating the Ahsoka variants that are being set. So her calling is mostly just shit stomping something bad.
Yeah.
Usually Afra. That's why I used her against this first week was Afra.
Something you said reminded me a brief honorable mention to Sidious in the sense that a lot of us have been racking our brains and like, I don't want to set something that Sidious can eat up, and he can eat up quite a bit. I decided that I was just leaning into that. Like, we all know that this Tarkin DCT Scorch is just getting gobbled up by Sidious. So, fine, do that right there. And then you're not doing it to Tuskens or the couple things that Dagger just mentioned. Balin being one of them. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, Balin being such a high calling for it, I'll find a different way to kill Tarkin if I can Sidious Balin.
Fair. Absolutely fair. I'm just saying that I think instead of trying to go Sidious proof or dad bod proof, one thing that at least helped minimize the stress of my planning last week was acceptance that you can probably find an application for Sidious or Dadbod in just about any board that still gives me enough to get through yours. In which case, here's a couple, 3 for each, and do what you're gonna do. So,
No, that tracks. That
Yeah.
tracks. Welcome back, Sasha.
hey, Sasha. So
Thanks, guys.
we were just while you were out, we went through the last couple of meta topics in the sense that we talked about Queen with Krennic, and we showed TJ's footage, successful footage versus Ray Swallow Ezra. We also showed Dagger doing that. I had set him with Tuskens, but nothing crazy happened. I know you fought him and took him out in one shot. Did you see or use the Krennicron in any novel way?
Yeah. So actually, first of all, on the Tuscan defensive application, because I happen to be the one that went against your Tuscans with the Chronicron. I when I first saw that, I went back into the very old data from the prior support cron and noticed that it was still losing to gas. It was losing to a variety of stuff, and it ended up being not a winner. I was surprised. I don't know if for one reason or another they are not attributing those dots to the chieftain. So I'm not sure. I would think that they would. It's off of his unique, and I mean I've in the past like modded him for potency for that purpose, but so I'm not sure. But anyway, that didn't seem like a winning proposition. And I would say that the application that I saw of the support cron that was useful is I did take it against your Ahsoka, Ezra. Did you have Huyang or something like that? Or
It was either
maybe it was
Huyang or Syndulla.
Yeah. And that was a slam dunk, taking Queen Amidala and the support cron against that.
Nice.
Really a slam dunk.
Nice.
So, like,
Hu Yang is the only one that brings that down into like the 80s.
okay.
Good to know. Yeah, we'll keep that in mind.
Maybe it's the 70s. I'd have to double check. But yeah, Queen
With the
versus
extra
Ahsoka
stats.
in like it looks pretty good on .gg.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it felt pretty good. So yeah, that was what I saw. But I mean, the other thing that it made me curious about is like, I don't know where else the support cron can go, but boy, with QA, it's doing a lot of good there. So
Yeah. All right. That's pretty consistent with what we were discussing as well. And then just where you popped in, we were wrapping up talking just a moment on Balin. Where he was on defense, I was able to get through with JML. Gone are the days of the long text mercenary level 6. So that seems like some encouragement to pull him off defense. And then thinking about how we do have the debut of Jedi Master Mace here this week, may be additional incentive to keep him for offense. And I think you're caught up now.
Yeah, really quick. 76% against Hu Yang, 96% roughly against everything else that's not Hu Yang.
Oh, so that's for that queen counter on Ahsoka.
Yeah, against
Dig
Ahsoka.
that. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. All right, so let's see. I didn't have this one listed in the meta-analysis section, but I think it's appropriate. Folks are going to want to know. Jedi Master Mace Windu joins the Holotables this week. And yeah, alongside Depa, your Ayla, an effective attacking team. Some people, I'm sure, are going to be doing Mace with Depa and Temple Guard on defense. I wonder how that's going to perform. But, I know folks will also be asking, how do we set them up? I'll just show mine here and we'll talk it out and how much different from each of mine are you guys. So I went with speed and health sets, crit damage triangle, potency cross. The idea being is they get 30% potency from Ayla's unique. So if you get them, just about 70-ish, pretty much a potency cross worth, you're going to be over the line for 100%. Decent spot to be, potency-wise. Otherwise, 340 speed, just over 115,000 health, crit damage triangle, 9,500 physical offense, and then, just under 60% crit chance. But as I was reminded here earlier today, The leadership not only gives 20% crit chance, but if there is an active ally Depa Balaba, she and Mace gain double these stats. So it is 40. So bring him up to, 99. Fine spot for him to be in. Where are you guys? How'd you guys land on him?
Well, in my mind, I was there and back again on how to mod Bilbo Baggins and Mace. But at the end of the day, because they do get the crit chance bonus, I decided to try to shoot for the 120 to get past like the CA masteries and the CA arrows you might fight. I landed somewhere close to you. If you want to pull mine up, mine is in one of the bot rooms. I think I was somewhere around like 350 speed or something like that. I want to say. I can just pull mine up on in my game to tell you where I
think I found yours from earlier. Let me just get it out of like Supreme Giga Zoom.
Yeah, so I ended. This is where I ended up on him. I also did speed and health.
All right, so 354, very fast. Yeah, continue.
Yeah, I also did speed health. I also just had I also didn't want to gut anybody important, so his offense is lower than I'd like, and his crit chance is lower than I'd like. But I think this is sufficient for week 1 since I'm only going to be using him on offense. I just don't trust his AI, and I really don't like Temple Guard as a third with him and I don't know what's her name, Depa. I'll try and get it right one of these days.
Yeah,
I promise.
Depa.
Depa. So I think I'd rather use him with the Alacron on offense with like speed up on basic and such and such. I just don't think that Mace and then the Depa and New Jedi Knight Guardian are that good.
Okay. All right. Well,
especially since they're fixing the captive unique on New Jedi Knight Guardian.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, we talked about that in the last stream. That is goofy, and I'm glad they're fixing it because that's jokes being able to indefinitely perpetuate that captive if Temple Guard dies before his second turn. That is wild. But how about the rest of you guys? Sasha, Fatal, TJ, what do you guys think about how you set up your mace? I'm assuming we all got it. If it's secret sauce, you can just say so.
It's not. It's not. I kind of looked at yours, and I know I was hearing, luckily, from the team that the high shields was down. There was no time for me to insert any type of specs or anything. So honestly, what I did is looked at characters I didn't use, kind of looked at yours tasked with just an idea of it, and just got them sort of emulated. So I just pulled good mods from other characters where I had my stuff attributed. My mace is like 336, so it's close to the range of what I would consider okay with the builds that are all right. Crit damage setup for Ayla, obviously nothing changes there, trying to push the potency. And then for Depa, I went 300, felt like a good number, crit damage, and then I did 10 right now. I know the numbers will push higher.
Well, we'll come back. We'll come back to Depa here in a minute. I just wanted to wrap up.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like to the overall, I didn't give as much love. I kind of just looked at where it was at. I was like, all right, this feels like a good, accurate one. So pulled where I didn't need it.
Oh, appreciate you. Sasha,
I have a quick question for the kit. Does investigate a potency tenacity check?
No.
It's you have to do the number of turns check or whatever, and then it pops.
I was just asking because Shatterpoint is not either.
No, Shatterpoint isn't, but hang on, let me try to pull his kit up right now. So the thing that you need to know is that provoke is like incredibly key to him. So I'm trying to see if provoke can be resisted because I think it can. That his potency
it can. The doubt and the whatever that can all be resisted as well. The only time that doubt can't be resisted is if the enemy leader is already dead.
So Temple Guard, if he's alive, well, I don't know if you're going to be using Temple Guard with Mason Divi-3 though. Yeah, you probably wanted it mods, I would say. Like Ayla gives you 30% for free, but the getting provoked down is just so crucial to the squad that like at the very least it's probably worth investing potency secondaries into. But honestly, also just like aside from its decapitation strike, I just don't think this team does all that much damage. That like at some point, crit damage probably isn't all that sacred to him, at least in 3v3. Like if you have Temple Guard providing 100% offense, sure, but I do think Temple Guard will probably stick with Joe Costa plus Keller and Beck.
So you think that there's
I'm possibly leaning towards like a speed base or something.
Well, I'm thinking you're just leaning towards a health primary triangle.
Oh, I'm not betting for. I would go full protection, I think.
Oh yeah, okay. Why would you favor protection over health?
Just principle. Like I have no idea what his use case is going to be, but I don't want to leave percent health damage open to risk. Like,
fair.
Yeah, just generic approachability. Like, yeah, whatever happens, happens. But you know, I would rather miss health than regret having it.
Okay, appreciate it. Dagger, are you trying to get something in there? Sorry.
No, I was going to ask, like, since with what you're saying about provoke, what would be the target that you would at? Like, I shot for 90% when I was doing mine, just because I thought 120 would be good after the Ayla unique. So I was curious, like, where would you try to like land that potency number if that was something you were being like, if you were trying to be cognizant of?
Proactive potency is just really fucking weird because a lot of teams just don't require it at all, and then some teams hyper require it. That I would say either like, I would say like maybe just tack on like either across or just like 20 to 30% on secondaries, and then if you spot a matchup that you have in mind that like really needs the committal, then like yeah, push that like full committal. But I like speed and survivability seemed like really key constant factors in the fights that I was experiencing today. Like it's buoyed slightly by the current set, you know, like defense plus protection pool plus light side bulk 3. It like is a night and day difference, but thinking long term, like think of it this way. You get to choose between a tank and barely any survivability mechanics, or survivability mechanics and no tank. That in either case, I would be very, very concerned about staying alive more so than critting somebody if you intend to use this team in 3v3, which I don't even know if it will happen at this point.
So you're saying you'd rather have a prot triangle?
Protection or health, just whichever makes sense for the situation.
Thinking more like CLS style, like, you know, the damage is not coming from big single hits, it's just making sure that you're alive to use your kit. That's kind of your theory here?
Kind of, more or less. The problem is CLS actually does good damage because they do exposes instead of Shatterpoint. I don't know, man. I have very restrained expectations of this squad at 3v3. Please do not post them on defense.
Yeah, I think it'll disappoint anybody who dares. So
yeah, I just don't see. I don't see it being very good.
All right. Well, here, let me just move right into Depa. I don't want to have us linger too long on it. I didn't mean for that part even to take so long. But yeah, Depa decided to go, more speed is better, but comfortably just up over 300 is great. Crit damage triangle. I bounced some mods around for the right secondaries, but as far as like health or protection primary for circle, I didn't really care about it. I think more pure survivability for her does come from protection, but I think there's also synergy with protection up and other health gains with health, so probably better to go with health. But aside from that, I didn't make too much care about it. Potency, yeah, 76%, so with Ayla, over 100. You know, Fatal's point for anything you're really trying to make sure to land, you could add more. That's fair. And then, yeah, just under 11.9k offense, 73% crit chance. I did have this higher, about 85% earlier today before lock-in, but then when I realized that crit chance bonus from Mace's lead is doubled for the two of them, I gave about 10% of that crit chance back to pick up another 200-300 offense. So, how about you guys? Where'd you land differently from this?
I landed in basically the same spot, except again, I'm at 90% potency because that was the target I had.
Sure. Not
But
bad.
yeah, I'm around 80% crit chance, a little under 12k offense, a little under 300 speed. Yeah, nothing insane. I don't think.
Mhm.
I think most of us are on the same page.
Yeah, we'll see. How about the rest of the room? Okay, don't everybody jump at once. Damn.
To be honest, the hot detail shit like took up so much of my time and focus that they were basically just like last second slap whatever I had left on.
But you
Like,
knew what you were intending, right?
Nah, not really. Like I went into the test stream and didn't really have time to absorb the results. I was just trying to put out fires.
Gotcha.
I mean, they're both just on generic like fast bulk primary crit damage defense set type shit. I don't know if she has flush crit chance, but I think she probably does given the 40%.
Mhm.
Yeah, she does. So yeah, it's just generic crit damage defense set.
Sure.
Crit damage triangle, bulk, speed.
Okay. Not at all. TJ, Sasha, anything different from what we were just discussing for your depot modding?
Not yet, man. That's what I was telling you. It was just enough time. I'll probably look and get my numbers where I want them for the template. I figured 10K was just a good starting point if and when, and then based on what we get to do, because I like yours. Like I said, yours seemed really nice for somebody who's able to critique it. I'll get there. But I want to play with what it needs to look like as far as all the other pieces. But I also agree with Fatal and looking at it's just a 5-man team. So as much as that would begrudges me to say it, I think it's Ayla with Depa and Mason. There's no way I'm putting that on defense. You just go willy-nilly. That just feels bad.
Yeah, fair. Sasha, anything from you on Depa? We may have lost Sasha to the sea. Possibly. No mic coming on, just so you know, Sasha. I see you went from mute to unmute, but yeah. Anyway, if you have something to add, feel free to drop a comment and text and I'll throw it in here. But last but not least is Ayla. I did go for crit damage and potency sets. I'd like to be closer to 270. I might try and make some slices, some adjustments to go closer to that, but nevertheless, 262 speed, crit damage, triangle, and set. Health circle, I want to say. 108% potency, ideally about 110. That's where I historically had her. My eyeball would like that better, but 108 is perfectly serviceable. Packed on a ton of offense on her, just over 8,000 physical damage. Her crit chance really doesn't need any help because she's gaining just a ton of time from not only the leadership from Mace, but also her unique gives her something like 50% or some obscene number. It's to the point where you really don't need to be worrying about it. So that's where I'm at. How about you guys?
Similar numbers. I'm lower offense, higher potency, faster. Also crit damage set.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah, just I have a prot circle on her though. Because she heals herself for health and protection.
Mm-hmm. Better
Right
value,
whenever. Yeah, so I wanted her health and protection pool are pretty skewed, so I wanted to add the protection to kind of like balance them out to kind of try to maximize the regen.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the health circle that I have on, I think you'll understand why I went with it instead of protection.
Yeah. No arguments.
But I think you're absolutely right. On paper, I would have preferred that myself. Yes.
Yeah, just giving my rationale. Yeah, the beautiful mod you have on her, by the way.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I forget who I stole it from, but somebody less deserving, I assure you.
That's one of the things I do with my rip up is I didn't like TJ and Fatal both kind of said I didn't go super deep tearing mods off great characters. I kind of took mods off characters that I wouldn't have to work too hard to backfill off of.
Fair. Yeah. You guys do any and you know, TJ Fatal do anything different here with Ayla?
Her damage potential seems god awful to me. The thing that I'm struggling with right now is so from what I talked about earlier about how you need them to counterattack to be able to build investigation. I don't know that I actually want Ayla to be taking turns at all. If she is getting into the squad, like if you're fighting against like someone who's crit immune or whatever that she just can't stun them, then maybe you don't care and you're fine with her taking turns. But like, literally, you could have some character at like 3 out of 5 investigation. Ayla's like, "Don't worry, guys, I got this." Puts them at 4 investigation, stuns them, and then you just can't finish the job unless someone else has an ability to like top that number off. Because again, you don't make investigation by hitting them; they have to hit you back. And so she's stuck in this weird spot where, like, okay, so if she's in the squad, she's like this reactivity stick that you just slap into that slot. And so I'm either like, yeah, I'm pretty much just slamming her on protection, and then it's just a question of am I doing fast protection or defense protection? Because she gets 450% defense.
Okay.
Or no, it's 200 defense, 450% tenacity. Or no, 270 defense. Sorry. But yeah, she's just such a weird character to work with, man. Like, it's cute that she gets so much defense and tenacity, but like, if she's the last character standing, kind of who cares?
Yeah.
But I don't care if she does anything else. So it's just like, I guess I'll just give you more defense, and you could just have fun with that.
Okay, I see that. Yeah, I'm glad we asked. Glad we talked about that. And then TJ, again, I'm assuming you were just modeling after a couple other players.
Yeah, I pulled another character. I just pulled her from pulled a full set from another person that had some potency in their crit damage setup. But I agree with Fail. Even thinking about that, it's like, yeah, that's true. The one who wants to stun and lock your team up, and you can't do the investigation, kind of defeats the purpose of the investigation. So to Fatal's point, I wasn't even putting that the 2 and 2 together because those 3 feel the most aligned. But basically feels like you're not going for that piece of the kit, which feels like it's a big part of what they're supposed to be doing with that team.
It's the sort of thing that might not matter a lot of cases, but it won't matter right up until it does. And like, I expect someday I'll see some TW fail report where someone's like, I don't know what the fuck happened, and like, yeah, it's like, yeah, it doesn't have to be Ayla taking a turn. It could just be like Ayla counterattacking, and all of a sudden, like,
right,
the gameplay just stops working. Where it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think Ayla is very much like, if you know what you're doing in advance, you can kind of just mod her around. Like, okay, she's not going to be stunning people anyway, so who gives a shit? Let's just speed her the fuck up.
Sounds good. All right, we'll see how that evolves here this week. Let's move now into best attack and defense of the week, guys. As far as my stuff goes, let me pull up my round. Rockstar had an awful lot of blood. Let's see. I mean, obviously so he did attempt JML and got Oppo out, but that was it. So that was nice. DRZ, see, I remember folks were successful with Qui-Gon in the past, so I'm glad that I imagine that the Zalbarkron had something to do with our success here. I don't really know about how it should hold up to Riva, but DRZ was surprisingly good for me on defense, and that's something I wanted to highlight. We know that, certainly in past metas, not really, and maybe not even in this one necessarily, but you can't argue with it actually happening, so then I don't think, Sasha see, Sasha himself tried Qui-Gon JK Cam, because again, if memory serves, it worked before, and then it didn't work. Happy with that. Attack-wise, it's not really going to be any better than the couple things I showed, the JMK versus the Slacker being successful, and then the Seer Malicos Star Killer being successful versus Lord Vader Oppo. Dagger, what about you? I got your tab up. Where are we going? Your favorite attack and defense?
I mean, like, I didn't really have a favorite attack, if I'm being honest.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like you had like 20, 40 plus scores, so you're just rolling through.
Yeah, it was mostly like the whole, well, we talked about this, the times I didn't one-shot SOK, I cleaned it up. And, yeah. So I would just point you to go look at my defense because SOK was... It turns out I didn't have to put up 2040s to win.
Yeah, just forbidding. So there's a mace. Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate, having a Relic 7 tank in this situation. That's a pretty unforgiving circumstance. Well, how did round 3 go here?
Yeah, Drewby's in Chromium at least.
Yes. And then but see, he took GK, and then that has certainly proven to be poor. Also, you're thinking about things like Great Mothers having an elevated targeting priority for GK. Folks are operating under the same assumption here versus Slacker, and I have seen Slacker target not GK and not Mace. But to this day, and feel free to correct me, anyone in the chat, I have never seen him target anyone but Fives until Fives was dead.
Yeah, that used to be exploited for months when he first came out. It's one of the reasons why they added like the crit immunity, was it, and the speed to his lead, was because people were two-manning it with gas Fives, because he would just attack Fives. If you taunted with Fives, he would just attack Fives repeatedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate that, Dagger. Thanks. TJ, how about you? Your favorite attack and defense of the week? Where are we going?
To me, we showed my favorite attack. The Queen with the support, absolutely one of my favorites for this week.
Yeah, I mean that's a great value against Ray Swallow Ezra. Really nice.
And it's so, like I said, and for the fact that we get to play the fight in variety and get to the same result was phenomenal, right? And it was perfect score, so that was awesome. And then defense, I mean, are we just saying anything not SLKR? Is that really
anything you think's noteworthy? I mean, we've talked about SLKR,
nothing.
So if there's a nuance of an SLKR fight that you wanted to point out, happy to see it.
No, I would have said round 3, but he didn't take Hoda. He had a Relic 9 mace, but I think it goes to the point of like my round 1 was the same as the round 3. Without the Hoda there, you're not playing the same game in my opinion.
So I will say this, and I'm glad we're talking about it because I guess we should have mentioned it beforehand. The Hodacron has been, without a doubt, the safest Datacron to use for this counter. I have heard tell of people being successful using a very high health stat set 21 light side bulk. You're able to just have large enough protection up, and some folks have been getting the job done there. So I wouldn't recommend it. Sorry.
Especially if you want to go to the Sweat Lord modding I mentioned earlier, I'll kind of just quickly reiterate it. If you wanted to try to do that, there's the Sweat Lord mod you could try where it's 3x defense sets with 4x health primaries on 5s to maximize the prod up, and then moving Cat into 4x health primaries. Because I think most people still have in a speed arrow, so getting her into that health arrow will go probably quite a ways. So those are two things you can do. Obviously, you're locked in for week 2 at this point when you see this, but just I've said it. I said it on Tass's streams a couple of times, so people who have been following Tass have probably, or on his server, have heard me say, or at least mention that a few times now. So hopefully, if you were going to do it, you can. If not, watching this, you can maybe try to set it up for week 3. But I think there are ways to try to legislate some of the RNG out of this fight, like Tass said, to not have to use specifically the Hodacron.
Mm-hmm. I just want to call out one thing since we're talking about high health. If you go to my round 1, Q-Tip attacked with that setup, and that was with the crew, and it got shut down. There's only attack you get.
But see, Relic 8 5s, probably not forgiving. 56% health is of the like of what I was thinking, Clearly, he could get, probably closer up to 80 if it was fully optimized, but I imagine that more than this Kron being insufficient, the Relic 8 5s is probably insufficient.
The difference between R8 and R9 is massive on tanks.
Yeah.
Especially, I think 5s. Especially, I think on 5s.
All right.
Yeah, 5s is so good. Such a strong tank.
All right, well, appreciate that, TJ. Sasha Aisha, how about you? Your favorite attack and defense of the week? Take us to the zone.
Sure. So for attack, it probably would have been my QA support cron against the Ahsoka Ezra, but now TJ covered that. I'll add one more, and it was from pulling Tarkin to just find some application rather than just being Sid fodder. And your point's a valid one that, like, look, Sid's going to do his business. He may as well do his business on Tarkin. And so it's okay to keep a Tarkin squad on D. But when I pulled it to offense, there is one clause in there that, when they rewrote Tarkin, there's a good amount going on in that kit. But one little clause I want to make sure isn't ignored by people is that anybody that squad kills can't be revived. So I used it against Tuskens, and it was so smooth, so quick. And granted, other things can certainly take out Tuskens, but and
34 whole seconds that fight was.
Yeah, but
I'll tell you, 20 of those seconds were me making sure I was recording the AoE that was coming from Tarkin. Like, there was like no need for anything. It was remarkably smooth. So that was probably what's that?
What's the Scorch Crown you have there? Like, what's the stat spread?
Yeah,
It
so
was
he's
a
got
high defense
44%
one.
crit damage,
Okay.
4.78% offense, 230% defense, just under 10% protection. He has the whenever dark side allies are dispelled at the end of the turn, they gain potency up, tenacity up for 2 turns. The offense stacking clone level 6, and of course Scorch 9.
The reason I was asking is because I was curious if you had some turbo potency cron on there. They're like, but if that's just normal Tarkin, that's hot.
It's normal Tarkin, and I will say there's potency coming, left and right from the kit, from so many other things that I didn't want to keep it running, but I would be tempted to just see how thick Tarkin can get in these things. Like, again, if I end up in another one of these spots where the battles don't matter, just taking Tarkin in because of that, he gains defense equal to his potency percentage, and his potency is climbing and climbing. That at R9, that guy is so crazy thick. That was really smooth and pretty fun. I guess from a defensive perspective, it was really so. I made a point of setting, the Kelleran Beck, Jocasta Temple Guard squad against UTAS with not the Temple Guard Kron. I wanted to see what that long text Jedi Vanguard would play out like, and so I got to watch that recording. I mean, it's decent, not super exciting or anything, but that was the one that I wanted to see if it was a wrinkle in terms of survivability. Survivability is not sort of a key element to success against a C counter, but I was just curious to see how that would play out, and I got steamrolled, but that was the defense that I was curious. So non-Temple Guard Kron on there.
No, yeah. Did you have an interesting application of the Temple Guard Kron that you freed up?
No.
No, it just ended up sitting idle. All right, fair.
Yeah, I had it in the back of my mind as an option for Zori, like a cleanup, because I had them if I needed it, and it's a lot of resistance pen on that, so I figured it's 60% off, or some amount of offense. I mean, it's not 60; that's the support cron, but that's right. It's just primarily it's got resistance pen, and that felt nice for them, but I didn't use it. No.
All right, well, appreciate you sharing that, and of course, Fatal. How about you? Your favorite attack and defense of the week? Where are we headed to?
So we already touched on a lot of like the big beats that I would point out here.
Sure.
So I guess our favorite attack, I would maybe say scroll down to the bottom of round. Or is it the bottom? Oh, sorry, I'm on my defense tab. It's around the bottom of round 2. Okay. So this is, depending on the GG Cron, I would say like probably never try this, but it was cool, so I'll point it out here.
Looking for a GG fight, you're saying?
Grievous against Balin.
Grievous against in round 2.
Yes.
Oh, that's you on attack, is it? I heard you say.
Yeah, be on attack.
My bad.
No, I couldn't find it because I was on my defense tab.
No. All good. Okay, so your opponent had Balin Shin Marok down with a set 21 dark side cron, so with the health up, evasion up, all that. 52% crit damage, 66% potency, about 100% armor penetration, 16% health.
It's extremely squishy. It was a super squishy Balin team. Like, I'm not suggesting anybody do this, but it was a cool fight that like I was not expecting to win, but totally just sledgehammered through.
Sound one shot, 53 bleeds a lot. I mean, for an efficiency meta, but high punch up for sure.
You say it's an efficiency meta. 2 of my matches had minus 100 banners and one opponent didn't clear.
So did mine. I'm just thinking about the community at large. I hear still quite a bit of grousing about tight banner counts and few drops.
Well, maybe they need to start posting some teams again.
I hear you, man. I've had to sack up and take some things I've really enjoyed off of defense just because they ain't doing it. Just ain't doing it no more. Even with the set having some really advantage stuff for Qui-Gon, JK, Cam, just can't bring myself to do it.
I will say that about 10 days ago when we did the in-between, it wasn't 10 days. Whenever. Was it 10 days ago we did the in-between? Anyways,
Yeah.
whenever we did the I was definitely one of the people very annoyed by what I expected this first week to be. And outside of the SLK problem, we'll call it, it hasn't felt super efficiency based. Like, don't get me wrong, there's an efficiency aspect, but it feels more almost one-shotty than efficiency. And that is, I guess, a version of an efficiency meta, but it's a much more tolerable, in my opinion, for me personally, a much more tolerable version of an efficiency meta is, can you win all your fights? Can you get one drop because your opponent's going to drop 2? Right? Like that kind of thing, right? Like what you were saying, Fatal. If I can set a reasonable defense and know I'm going to get a drop or 2, and I can just make sure that I'm more, air quotes, efficient by one-shotting teams, by using even bad banner wins, I think that's kind of where we're at. So I will say that I came into this week expecting the worst, and it wasn't all that bad outside of, the SLK problem.
And since I'm still on this page and it's staring me right in the eye, I just had to ask you, Fatal. What is the status of the dream making Fugitive Omega work versus Lord Vader?
So unfortunately, like, I think if this was 4v4, like if they just had one extra unit, one of the clones, and we had Hunter, I think the realistic state right now, especially against Apocron, is just that we couldn't generate enough target practice in time. Hunter really kind of greases those wheels that would really kind of help that out. I did try to test cutting Wrecker and then running Omega as the tank with Hunter and Crosshair, and got crushed a lot faster than I expected to, because obviously Wrecker is better than Omega bulk stat wise, but I've got them both at R9 and both like relatively close in modding quality. And for adding Hunter, you also gain the 50% protection that I figured, well, how far off could it really be between the two? But yeah, no, she got put down real quick that it just did not really pan
Makes
out.
sense.
And then that first match, it was I didn't even. It turns out scouting can be useful sometimes. I didn't even realize that they didn't have CX2, so they ran Oppo Riva, and like, yeah, I figured Bad Batch would not be able to cut through 3 respawning Rivas, but I was just like, it was very much just an experimental week, so I was just like, fuck it, let's just see what happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Sorry, you had something else?
No, it just, all told, I would just say, like, maybe a little bit mature a bit and see how things progress as, like, Apocron goes away or whatever, because right now it's really just the tension of the relationship between Apocron punishing you for constantly spamming cleanse. Ironically, because of a bug with Scorch with damage over time, Scorch being present actually lets us use cleanse before those locked dots go away. So in a weird way, Scorch being absent here actually kind of made things harder. But yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if it's something that, like, the clone cron, like, maybe if it's turn meter over offense, it could be fine to try it here.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think offense will probably be a decent stand-in for Apocron, but I would imagine the pressure will be roughly similar at that point. But yeah, it's still something that I'm kind of eyeballing long-term, as it would be a fun project to pursue.
All right. Yeah, so it sounds like it's probably not going to get it done here in 3 versus 3, but the show will continue in 5s. Yeah?
Next 5v5, it might not. Just no, it's sheer virtue of Apocron, right? Apocron is really just kind of the gating factor, I think, right now.
Okay.
Upper Crun and possibly Clone Crun.
And I guess your take then here in 3 versus 3 is that Oppo is the superior threat for defense as opposed to the CX2 Cron?
At least for the bad batch, but like I'm probably
Okay,
only
sure.
the game
At least for
that.
that. Not seeing a lot of difference otherwise. I know we were talking about that.
I ran 2 rounds of complete BS, and then I ran a JML Hodo, which would not really care about what you do either way, probably. So
sounds good. Appreciate it. Guys, it's been a great discussion. Here we are at takeaways and final thoughts. So heading into week 2, I've tightened up a couple things. I finally pushed up Exile Ezra to 380. Obviously, the mods of the Jedi Vanguard characters. What else did I do? Just rolled a bunch of mods. We had Conquest End. Ready for it. I'm ready to see what we can do. I think there's a couple teams that underperformed on defense, even though I thought I had a very robust defense. Clearly, opponents are going to be expecting at least that, so I've got to cut probably the weakest 2 teams and think about what goes in their place. That's kind of a generic footprint plan for this first week. Naturally, my first round here is against Sasha, so only the finest scheming will do. That'll all have to take place in secret later, offline. But that's my takeaway for the week. How about you, Dagger?
Yeah, I know we talked about that, and I already said I already know which teams I'm pulling. I just have to figure out what I'm replacing them with. It's one of those things where I feel like I didn't set a light board, and my defense wasn't tested. So I'm at a disadvantage to a lot of people. Because my SOK kind of just held all week, I have no idea what the rest of my defense is doing. No one saw my back wall, which, again, isn't like the end of the world, but it's like they can figure out what was there by looking at my attacks, right? It's not like it'd be a secret. It's like, oh, which key teams are missing from attack? Oh, they must have been on defense. So I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage. So one of my takeaways is, or one of my thoughts for this next week is try not to overcompensate on defense, but also try to remove the 2 worst teams from defense. I like I said, I already know which 2 I'm trying to pull. And I really like the idea of using Tarkin versus Tusken. So thank you for that, Sasha.
Yeah, that's like another permakill team is a nice thing. For sure.
That makes one of my team pulls really easy. And it means I'm not saying unless we set a Sidious proof board, but it lets me set maybe a little bit more of a robust board, like raise the floor a little bit, because they were going to Sidious something anyway. There's almost nothing you can do to stop Sidious. But yeah, we'll kind of see how that works itself out. Like I said earlier too, I'm pleasantly surprised that this week was not nearly as toxic as I thought it would be. I might be a little lucky because I say that as somebody who was able to clear Lord Vader and SLK and Rey/Ahsoka Ezra every round for good banners, as you saw, for like 2040s. And my opponents couldn't clear SLK, and I know that there's a lot of frustration from the other side who couldn't clear SLK. Right? So again, it's about just trying to keep measured, and it's gonna be interesting week 2 with this new team, because I actually enjoyed week 1, and it's weird. It's like almost every other season, it's like 5s and 3s rotating for me enjoying them. It's weird.
I mean, 3s has just been the only reprieve from the over-cluttered board of 5. So yeah, I just continue to enjoy it more.
Fucked. And this season so far has been solid.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you for that, Dagger. How about you, TJ? Your takeaways, your final thoughts, pearls of wisdom for the people.
Definitely a good time to study your opponent right now. I think this one is pivotal. Not because of the base of the new characters, but because I think that's going to hedge your bets of the checkbox and then what you're going to try to work on. knowing
And
what you're going to
when you
use on
say
some
the
of the
checkbox, you mean not only the
That's
Slacker
OKR,
Gray
dude.
team.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
that's the checkboxes.
Okay,
I
that's the
call it
big ones.
checkbox just because
The big
that
gate.
really determines. Yeah. So if you put it on, I know we want an LV, but it's SLKR because obviously LV feels like it's there, but it's not as there in my opinion.
Nowhere near as
Some
dangerous. Yeah, fair.
no, so it's like we hit the checkbox, then you're in the game of all right. So how well are we gonna do? What Dagger said too. It's like if you both clear that, then now you're into a different game that we're playing. So studying your opponent and studying the teams and all that, I think, going to be a big piece right now. Because then I think that's going to lead into the games we'll see into week 3. Because now we're starting to play poker, in my opinion, that we can start bluffing what we might see or what we might not.
All right, I appreciate that. Sasha, how about you? Your takeaways, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I'll just say I enjoy the current meta at the moment, and I say that coming off of what were like in different ways very challenging matches last week, like one where I couldn't get a defensive hold against Tass, and honestly, I can't end the show without me saying like hats off to you on that, Tass. Like it was. You were really thoughtful and deliberate in your offensive strategy. It was a great match to watch that video. And then in my first match, really having it over and having lost it immediately with an SLKR drop, and hard fail. So when I kind of look at it going forward, I guess my goal would be like it's hard for me to justify sparing any kind of investment in an SLKR counter because, like I'd mentioned earlier in the episode, like a drop there, not all drops are equal. Like a hard fail on SLKR is so problematic. So I think that's one of the factors. And the other thing that I'd say, like, it's kind of interesting to be in a moment where like the cool new thing that just rolled out this week, which is the Mace squad, seems in threes to be so offensively oriented. It's going to be interesting to see if that is enough. Like their general disposition, at least with the comps, most people will. I would expect people to set with it to only be viable on offense. Does that overcome the very like strong natural urge to anything that is new? It goes bottom front and force people to figure out like underinformed what will counter it. So that's going to be interesting to observe. And yeah, I actually I like one last thing I'll add in. Like while it didn't really yield any benefits to me, I'm just reminded that it's nice to have defense as a stat out there because I think it just can add to some of the messiness, some of the defensive viability of stuff, and I could see that in certain matches when I was looking to counter stuff, particularly like in my match against Baby Yoda. And granted, nobody has more defense than Baby Yoda, but like it was fun to be able to see a board where I'm like, a particular counter may be ruled out because I'm facing 400% defense on that Datacron. And look, I'm not saying it's fun to bang your head against that, but it was fun to have to think a little bit more about a matchup. So that was cool. And now that we're all the way through Conquest and an extra week to mod farm or mod reroll has happened, I think I don't wish facing multiple 400% defense crons on anybody. I think all of us will probably see a little bit more defense on the board than we did the prior week.
Very fair and extremely likely. Yes. All right. Appreciate you, sir. And of course, last but never least, Fatal. So, your takeaways, your final thoughts. What do you got cooking for the week to come?
Well, for the week to come, now that Body Till's had some issues, it's now Survival Horror Week of just try to get through as unscathed as possible, as I have no idea what TW horror mods await me. All told for the season, I don't really know what the rest of the season holds for me because I kind of went into this week excited to do a lot of shit, but based on some assumptions that like didn't quite play out. Like I was really, really hoping that the handcuffs on Ray would be real because even if that were to fail, it would still be a guaranteed Ray kill. I don't know. I still think the rest of the season is probably going to look like me having 8 to 9 GLs on defense, stuff like Balin and Starkiller and Malikos on defense. I kind of trying to turn 3v3 into like a 5v5, but I think I'm just short on teams. Like, yeah, I don't know. The head count is small. Like, the head count looked okay if teams like Jocasta were doing what I needed them to do, but they're just not.
Yeah.
So now I wouldn't say I'm like left in the lurch, but it's just like, well, now what? Because it's almost like maybe I'm trying to force something a little bit too early. Like, we just need more teams to release to like really try this or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I'm not really looking forward to anything in week 2 at this point, just for the virtue of the situation. But week 3, I'm just going to try to find the next iteration of what I was messing around with in week 1 and see if I can make something decent out of the play style. So yeah, that's really going to be most of it.
Sounds like a plan. Appreciate you sharing. And of course, as the only other content creator on our show, Fatal, where can the good folks find you this week?
Twitch.tv/PlaybookTV.
Right. Catch him there, folks. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. For joining me, rather, and everybody here for watching at home. Of course, if you're used to catching me live, then you already know I'm at twitch.tv/Tassinix. I also simulcast on my YouTube channel, Tassinix Gaming. If you haven't been there before, be sure to check it out. There is Swugger-related content there that you may be interested in. You know, we've got the mod guides, how-to mod series, GAC Omicron tier list, whole bunch of great stuff over there. It is also a rebroadcasting point for this very podcast. However, the show is native to Spotify. Wherever you catch an episode, though, check the description. There is a link that you can use to plug in your preferred podcast program and follow us there. Regardless, anything that you do watch on the YouTube channel, appreciate that in the first place. Second, hit like if you did enjoy. Third, hit subscribe if you want to see more. Really appreciate all of that. Of course, if you want to go above and beyond the Call of Duty to support the channel, there are a few ways to do that. I do have a Cash App, that is $Tassinix. I have a PayPal, that is tassinix@gmail.com. And of course, if you'd like to get some enhanced scouting power for yourself, early access to some of my content, and a couple other fringe benefits, you may want to check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Tassinix. For any upwardly mobile Grand Arena player, there is something there of interest for you. At $5 a month, you enter the TAS House at VIP access level, where you get early access to the Plotting and Scheming podcast. It is coming out to our general audience at 8 a.m. on Fridays, but our patrons get it as early as Tuesday night, within hours of us recording it. In addition to that, you also get early access to things like the Datacron set guide videos, and of course, dedicated text and voice chat on Discord, where you will usually find me lurking, so pop on in and say hi. Thank you so much to Andrew, Banja, Deadpool Cow 28, JJ's Productions Twitch, Jobin4527, Miasmal, Mus Ross, Rays Malbus, Sam Vimes, Sheepdog 47, Squed, Stark Strategy Gamer, Sweens 14, and White Wolf. Moving on up to the $10 a month tier is VIP Access Plus, where you get a bundled Patreon access to me and to your choice of either OmegaBot or Hot Utils Patreon. At the start of my streams, I like to highlight the OmegaBot scouting report. Anybody can use it to get a very clear, concise sense of their opponent's offensive and defensive tendencies for their last week of Grand Arena history, but only patrons can build out a custom report with any number of weeks. You get a downloadable HTML version of it with links that you can click that go right back into swugga.gg or Insight, whichever you like to use. Alternatively, you might spring for the Hot Utils Patreon, aka Chili, which is the #1 tool for your mass mod management and loadout creation. No other tool lets you so effortlessly switch between your Grand Arena, TB, Raid, and TW mods. You can use it like TJ and Fatal do to remod your rosters, unless there's an issue and there's an outage, and then you don't actually, get it all done before lock. But these things sometimes do happen. What effort of mortal endeavor is without flaw? Regardless, aside from that, you can also use it to slice through hundreds of mods in just a few seconds, help out your guild and TW, a few other odd perks. No wrong way to go at VIP Access Plus. So thank you so much to Dobby, Esh Sotnikam, Meow for Me, Mr. Tony, Ploon, Shake23501, Single Malt Jedi, Snack Attack, Striker, and Trouble Fingers. And in VIP Access Premium, this is $15 a month for the Double Bot bundle. So Patreon access for me, Omega Bot, and Hot Utils, all under one price. You can't get those bots a la carte cheaper out on the open market, so that's why so many of my patrons say this is one of the best value bundles in Swugga. Thank you so much to Argots, Arj, Big Ninja, Duckstab, Darth Link, Frick Frack Paddywhack, General Milan, Ivanek, Johnny B. Ottawa, Kev, Mini GK, Pills, Quig, Saldag, Sir Boss, Sophus, The Lost Womp Rat, Wilco, and Zoltre. And at the top of the heap, in Jester's Club Elite, the one, the only Nomad's Reaper. This madman pops into stream from time to time and drops hundreds of subs, thousands of biddies. He's done it many times over the years, and for that we say thank you so much, my man. Of course, last but never least, our special thanks. Let's see if this button on the Stream Deck works today. Oh boy, it does. First up is to the Lost Womp Rat. You know, previously this first special thanks position was occupied by Yoda Force. That mic he bought me forever ago has finally been retired. It was quite literally falling apart. Also, just not working some of the time. So, you know, to that mic and to all the benefit that it gave to us over the years from Yoda Force, we say thank you. And now the Lost Womp Rat gets this spot because in addition to the good work he's done for me in the past, helping me set up things in the background to improve my OBS setup, he also recently went to some effort with me to help me set up my Stream Deck. I was really not inclined to ever set this thing up. I got gifted to it. I got gifted it for Christmas, and it's just been sitting here ever since. So him setting the time aside to get this done, really super appreciated. You're a real one, my man. Thank you. And of course, to Mrs. T, my wife, thank you for all you do in the background, whether it's furnishing me with coffee, alcohol, or food as the situation demands, or just keeping our daughter from ripping the place apart while I'm trying to be halfway decent at a phone game. And of course, to my co-hosts here on Plotting and Scheming, Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal. As always, gentlemen, it is a pleasure and a privilege to record our show together. Every week, we still reserve the time to get together and talk about what's actually getting us through the top 100 in Grand Arena. I learn from you guys every week. Hopefully, the feeling is occasionally mutual, but it's not about us. It's about our community. A lot of great discussion, questions, engagement around the show. Have you guys to thank for adding so much to make the discussion as rich as it is and as successful as we've been. So thank you guys so much. We'll keep it going. All right. Heading back over to the main scene, it was a pretty fun first week. You know, you can't help but run into an Erodium at least once, so hopefully we'll get some hard-earned experience against Sasha here in the first round and see where the rest of the week takes us. I will, of course, be around Wednesday night for the first round of the season, starting between 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern. But until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.